Welcome to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Leonidas, and the founder of the Write Your Own Story company. Girl, I can tell you right now, you are definitely enough. Here we value service, sisterhood, connection, laughter, and that super genuine, keep it real, tell you like it is honesty. My hope is at the end of each episode, you realize you can do whatever it is you dream about and that you are not alone with what you struggle with. I'm hoping that you are snapping and clapping and hell yes in your way through each one of these episodes. So if this tracks with you, let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am thrilled to be here today with Linda Pevac, who is a multiple-time author, a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and has just really excellent perspective that she has channeled into her work that I am very excited to share with our audience today. We were talking off camera that the narcissistic cycle is pretty patterned, and broadly speaking is, like the signposts kind of repeat, whether it be in a therapeutic setting, a partnership setting, a work setting. So, I think this will be a great I'm really grateful that you're brave enough and, open enough and vulnerable enough to share your story. But I think also we'll be able to get into some of those broader themes. And I can't wait to tell people about your book. So Linda, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Betsy. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Okay. Would you mind just kind of like starting us off? So in your particular instance, you were in sort of the emotionally abusive situation with your therapist. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Would you mind just kind of starting us off? Like, what kind of support were you hoping to find? What were your thoughts on therapy going into it? Just kind of like, how did you find yourself in this situation?
Well, it was truly the shrink next door because
oh my gosh, literally.
It really was, because she was my next door neighbor. And the first time I met her was out at our mailboxes that were right side by side. And we started talking. We'd never met before. And she had told me that she was a psychologist. And that in my brain, I was thinking, I've been looking for a psychologist. So it kind of progressed to where she was giving me her professional business card. And I found myself in her office like almost immediately, maybe the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And I'd asked her, is it a problem that we're next door neighbors? And she assured me that it wasn't.
Okay.
But I was very naive about the therapeutic process at that point in my life. And I didn't see any reason why it would be a detriment. But of course, now where I sit with everything I know now, that should have been my first red flag.
Interesting. I think I would have been honestly in the same way, to be like, this feels weird, but I can't really put a finger on it. Like, she's a professional. I'm sure she will just compartmentalize, as will I. And we'll just coexist as neighbors. But interesting to know that that is the first red flag. Yeah. Okay. So I
was 32 years old and had just gotten married within the last year or two, but we were already having marital problems. And so in my head, when she said she was a psychologist, I thought, I've been needing some help with my marriage. And also the fact that we were being unsuccessful of having a child. And then there was, I'm an adoptee. I was relinquished at birth and then adopted 3 months later. And it was into a very authoritative home. So I was not encouraged to speak about my adoption or ask questions. It was very taboo. So to say that I had an identity crisis was an understatement. So I was wanting her to help me with all that unresolved angst I had about being an adoptee. I didn't have language for it at that time, but I just wanted to talk with someone that was skilled and trained, and she seemed perfectly capable. And then when I got to her office and I saw all her certificates on the wall, I thought, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And so that's where it started.
Interesting. I just want to pause for a second and thank you for being so vulnerable to be like, I had a full identity crisis. I think a lot of people, I'm curious to know, your sort of untangling the components that came with being an adoptee. When did that start to sort of tangle in your mind? How old were you?
I would say Well, I would say in utero,
Yeah,
because
interesting.
I swam in the waters of a woman, my birth mother, that not that I was unwanted, but it was an unwanted pregnancy.
Okay, I
And
understand.
so through coercive control, she placed me for adoption because she was told in the 60s that
Yeah.
she was not a fit and proper mother. And they were
Mm,
all told that.
yes.
So then I get placed into an authoritative adoptive home. And
Mm,
I was I learned how I had to separate my true self from who they wanted me to be. So that crack in my psyche started very early. And then I
mm,
was told that I was adopted probably about 3 years old. And
interesting.
I remember I cried because I thought of this birth mother out there that I felt so sorry for her, like she might be missing me and that
Yeah.
she lost me in the woods. And so I said, and I'm crying to my adoptive mom saying, "Is she okay?"
Mm,
Well, that set in motion my adoptive mom's um, jealousy over the fact that she knew that I identified with a woman I never met. I mean, I did meet her, but
mm,
that she could not compete with that. And we had a tumultuous relationship until the day she died.
mm.
But yeah, my adoptiveness and my inquisitiveness about who am I, how did I get here, started almost from the get go.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And even compoundly, that is that a word? I love to make up
Yeah,
words. I'm like, compoundly is
I
now a word,
totally get it. It's to the point.
right? We'll put an ly on top of compound. Um, I love what you said. It breaks my heart, but I think it is so poignant. And I think so many women just listening just now were like, oh, me too. When you say the fracture, the crack between who I really was and who I needed to show up for in my family, um, I think so many people can identify with that. And do you feel like having that as your baseline, given that that is how you were brought up in this world, set you up for vulnerability for this type of narcissistic abuse?
I would say that was my specific vulnerability, but I
Mm-hmm.
will also say that if an exploitative person wants to get you, they will
Mm,
find they will find your Achilles heel. And that just happened to be mine. So
interesting.
any of us that fall prey to these type people that want to
Mhm.
control, I don't want to blame it on the person, is what I'm trying to say,
Okay.
because we all vulnerable at certain points of our life. And if you go to therapy, you're already saying, "Here's my life, please help fix
Yeah.
me." And
Yeah.
so they have an in more
Mm.
so than maybe any other profession. And they do hide in all different professions, people that are after this kind of agenda.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is just, it like gives me goosebumps. I feel like this is a movie. Um, okay. So my first question is, one of the things that we know about narcissism is they have these sort of like big magnetic personalities. Was there anything that in particular about this therapist that made her feel particularly trustworthy or like magnetic in that way in the beginning where you're like, oh, thank God, I finally found what I was looking for?
Absolutely. And it started with the certificates on the wall. I gave her my blind trust without
Yeah.
her earning it whatsoever. Then there was once she did find my Achilles heel about never having a nurturing, loving mother,
Mhm.
um, she said, "I want to become that for you."
She
And
literally said that?
literally encouraged that on a daily basis. And I
Wow.
had resistance towards that. And she kept chipping away at it, saying, "You won't have a breakthrough until you look at me as the mother that you've never had." And she
Yeah.
fostered a dependency. And that's how the grooming, it just started over months of her grooming me, kind of insidiously drawing me in one little bit at a time.
Ooh, let's talk about that slow drip because I
Yeah.
definitely agree. Like, we know there is sort of a classic pattern of like love bombing and like these big gestures. And I'm thinking more potentially in like the dating relationship kind of thing where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is my person. I've never been treated so well, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. And it's like a full faucet situation. And then they start turning down the water slow enough that you're like, wait, is this really happening? Is this really happening? We just have to get back to where we were.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sounds like, was she like a full blast, I need to be your mother, or was she slowly like a slow drip grooming you over time?
Well, I think that initial invitation was out there almost from the get-go.
It's so interesting.
But then the other things came more slowly of where I had a pretty much autonomy when I came first to see her in the sessions. Uh, but and I like I said, I had this resistance because I felt her trying to get close, and so I was something innately in me was saying this is maybe dangerous.
Yeah.
But there's a term called a super therapist,
Okay. Tell me.
and it's where they use the way they dress, the way they talk. Her talk was almost hypnotic. And
Mm.
she had these professional eyeglasses where she'd always do a slow look. I mean, it sounds silly.
No,
But
I just loved your impression, but I get it. Kind of commands the room.
collectively, it all started to have an impact where I felt seen and heard for the first time,
First
maybe in
time.
my
Sure.
entire life. And
Yeah.
that I had a mentor on my team because growing up, I never had
Hmm.
any part of my family, not just my parents, but there was no mentor. So
Yeah.
she is the first one.
Hmm.
Um,
It really is meeting a need that you were desperate for, whether you knew it or not, I'm
yeah.
sure.
And
Yeah.
back to that birthing process of when I
Yeah.
was born, it was interrupted, meaning that I was immediately severed from my birth mother, and
Mm.
oxytocin is admitted for the normal birthing process that I didn't get, my birth mother didn't get either. And
Mhm.
so I feel like my entire life I have been looking to complete that birthing process. And this is an
Wow.
important part because she used hugs and touching. That really was the hook. Yeah.
Interesting.
Started being hugs at the first of the session, then it became at the end of the session, then it could be anywhere in between. She was touching me a lot.
Oh my
But
goodness.
that part
Okay.
happened slowly.
It happened slowly. So for those of us who are listening who are like, oh, she's touching you in the sessions, was it something that you felt uncomfortable with each time? Or was it just like, oh, a hug is lovely. It's a nice way to greet someone. And was it like a little bit confusing or how did it feel?
Only progressively did it get confusing.
Yeah.
At first, it kind of was hand in hand with, oh, she wants to be the mother I never had.
Mm.
And so here's this loving hug. And so that was intoxicating at
Sure.
first.
Yeah.
Then, after a while, I mean, she would encourage late night sessions at her house next door in her
Mm.
downstairs office.
Yeah.
And she became a lot more liberal with her hugs. They got longer and they got more intimate. That
Mm.
became confusing.
Yeah.
And then me going into sort of a fawning state of where I wanted her, but I didn't want her to go away. So
Yeah.
it was like my foot was on the gas and the brake. And so it
Interesting.
paralyzed me.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm sure your brain was just like, I'm absolutely stuck.
Well, and I thought I was the one in the wrong of what have I done to make this happen? And or I'm just being dumb about this and she really isn't making a move on me.
My
Or
goodness.
just doubting because she had groomed me to doubt myself too. All the gaslighting that she had done and started
Yes.
to break up my marriage to where I was not listening to my husband anymore
Mm.
eventually. And we had done couples counseling with her. And so she used that as ammunition against my husband to break
Mm.
us apart.
And how did your husband, was he able to see it?
Not at first. He didn't either. Um, but yet, as he saw me listening less and less to him,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I'd be gone from my home, and he'd know that I'd be next door in a session with her, he started to get very concerned.
Yeah, sure. Oh my goodness, this is just absolute wild. Can we circle back to some of the gaslighting? So that is a big part of narcissistic abuse. So if I'm understanding it right, she brings you in, she senses immediately that you've been craving nurturing your entire life, that you have never, your mother roles have been confused the entire time, and it certainly haven't met your needs. So she starts saying, let me be the mother. She starts giving you these warm embraces. Tell me about how she starts to gaslight you and confuse you and make you doubt yourself.
Well, I think the biggest thing she did was, and this is so classic, but I did not know that then. She
Yeah.
diagnosed me with that I either had bipolar disorder or what's the other one? Bipolar or borderline personality disorder. And
Mm.
for me at 32, I didn't know anything about psychological diagnosis, and I trusted her blindly. And I was very concerned about, something is really wrong with me. So I
Mm.
still was giving her all my power.
Yeah.
And I believed her, and I was quite upset of
Sure.
her saying that.
Yeah.
Other gaslighting things of you know your husband's not the right one for you, and look how poorly he treats you, and there was a certain amount of that was true. And that's the thing about coercive control or a cultic person, is there is some truth in it, and it gets
Mhm.
confusing because they hide the bad stuff.
Mhm.
And so
Absolutely.
it becomes hard to sift through of what is actual and what is not.
Absolutely. And I think about you in that situation where things aren't going great with your husband, right? You guys have tension, like many
Mhm,
marriages do.
mhm.
And, you're there to seek answers. But now, having gone through the therapeutic process myself, now knowing that it is their job to help you find your own answers, not to give you the answers, which is one of the most frustrating parts about therapy. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, please just tell me. But, they want you to be able to draw that stuff out of yourself and come to your own conclusions and, really help you process those things. So, how would you even know, with it being your first time, you're in such a vulnerable state about your marriage, when she says those things, to be like, she must be protecting me. If she's telling me he's wrong, he must be really wrong for me.
Exactly. And I was
Hmm.
getting that message from other people as well.
Interesting.
And mainly because my former husband was 20 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to hear anyone and what they had to say about that. So to hear it from her, someone I had already given my autonomy to,
Yeah.
that I thought, okay, so maybe he really, really is bad. And, he was a narcissist himself.
Mm.
That's another story in and of itself. And it just goes along with how I like to say what Janja Lalich, Dr. Janja Lalich says is being a cult hopper, because I went from an authoritative upbringing
Yeah.
to marrying a husband that was domineering and narcissistic in his ways, and then to the therapist.
Yeah.
So it was a pattern, and until I stopped all of that in its tracks, I was bound to keep repeating that same pattern. But
Yes.
luckily, I was halted in my tracks, and I've been able to see how the whole thing played out.
I have to tell you, I'm literally obsessed with my Aura Ring 4. Honestly, my Apple Watch was way too much noise for me. Stand up, sit down, you have a meeting, you're late, your steps are low, breathe, all the things. But this little ring has been an absolute game changer. It doesn't just track my sleep, it helps me actually rest better. Every morning, I get insights into my recovery, my readiness for the day, and whether my body needs more downtime. It even tracks my steps, my cycle, and literally so much more. If you're someone who loves data, cares about your health, and also loves cute jewelry, this ring is for you. This is a gentle reminder, backed by science, that rest is just as important as hustle. Unlock this powerful tool for better sleep, less stress, and smarter recovery with Aura Ring 4. Use my link in the show notes to get 10% off your Aura Ring today. I would love to just like dive into the story. And then after that, we'll circle back into these narcissistic patterns. But okay, tell us okay, so she's hugging you like crazy. You're having late night sessions at her house. Tell us everything that you want to share.
Well, she encouraged that her partner and my husband get together in a social setting. I mean, we had Thanksgiving dinner together. We went to movies, we played golf. And so it became really hard for me to think of her, are you my therapist or are you my friend?
Mm-hmm.
And then she started layering in this thought in my head of, you can never tell anyone about this because this is unethical what I'm doing, but you're that special to me. And I'm willing to overrule these things, but you can't ever tell anyone. And
Oh,
yeah. And of course, I don't want to see her vanish and go away. So I'm like, oh,
right.
absolutely no. I'm not going to tell anybody.
Right. And just to hear that you're special, even at 32, when you've grown up in a household that doesn't necessarily sound warm or loving, to hear that you're special, like just melts my heart for you. Of course, you're like, okay, someone sees me finally, and I don't want you to go away. I completely understand. Ugh.
And then that was followed with her oversharing about her own life with her partner.
Mm.
And the fact that she was my next door neighbor, you get to see them when they leave work or leave for work or come home, when they get their mail, taking their trash out. So I got to know too much about her life. And she started sharing in sessions about how she was pretty sure she was going to ask her partner to leave because it wasn't working out. Linda, just like your marriage isn't working out. So she was laying the foundation slowly about how the two of us should become partners.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Plot
Yeah.
twist. Okay, so the foundation is laying, the hugs are getting longer. Your intuition is like, ooh. Then
Right.
what?
Well, then I get a phone call at work one day, and she's yelling at me saying, why haven't you been answering my phone calls? And I said, well, I've been trying to work. And by that time, she had really started to consume my life. So she
Mm.
was calling me all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And, but what she said on this phone call was the most shocking. And by that time, I felt like my whole being was on tilt. I wasn't making good decisions. I wasn't thinking clearly.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even get off the right freeway exit to go to work because I was so distracted.
totally.
And she said, well, do you remember that key you gave me to go feed your cats that time? Well, I used it to go and pack up all your things and move them to my house next door because you're going to live with me now. And she was like, isn't that exciting?
Oh my God. Are you still married at this point?
Yes. I lived with my husband in the house next door.
Oh my God.
And I think I just like blacked out, to tell you the truth.
Totally. I
And
would have.
And by that time, I had missed so much work because of the distress I was under in trying to figure all this out, because it had played out over months of time.
Yeah.
That I thought, well, one more time of me leaving work
Mhm.
isn't going to matter now. And so I immediately drove to her house and tried to, find out what was actually happening. And
Yeah,
from that moment forward, for about the next 2 months, I lived with her.
you did.
I did.
Oh my goodness. And in hindsight, how did you get from the place of like, were you falling for her at that point? Had she really like pulled you in and you thought maybe this is something that I want to do?
It was like a both and situation
Sure.
of like, I felt as though it was a drug I couldn't live without. But on the
Mm,
other hand, I knew I was in deep trouble
yeah.
and I didn't know how to resolve it or solve it.
I
And
feel
that,
like a lot of people can relate to that.
and so it just kind of, it paralyzed me into I had just lost all autonomy.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to even remember myself in that way at this point now, but
Yeah.
it is really true. And I would just, that's why I'm an advocate now, because I don't want to see that happen to anyone.
Yeah. What did your husband say at the time?
Well, he was livid at first, and which made me push him back all the more,
Mm,
because my denial was so strong, and I just couldn't let anything else what am I trying to say? Slip in,
hmm.
because it was too upsetting.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to be alone and try to figure this out. But now I'm living with her, and it's like her 24/7.
Yeah.
and and you know what? The thing about you can't keep that mask on forever as a sociopath. At some point, it starts slipping.
Yep.
Before we get into that, I want to say that my husband did calm down. And what
Yeah.
he did, even though, he was not good for me as a partner, he
Yeah.
started feeding me little bits of information of, I'll bet that she's telling you how special you are. And I was
Ooh.
thinking, how does he know that? Then he
Yeah.
would give me an article that talked about exploitative therapists and what their methods are of how to exploit a client. And he said, is she doing this? And slowly but surely, those little cracks in my denial started getting a little bit wider,
Yeah.
coupled with her mask slipping.
Mm.
And that was the smartest move that he could have made for my well-being, because it built up to a point where I had enough energy to recognize that I needed to leave her and that she was very dangerous.
Were you guys still having therapy sessions while you were living with her?
Oh, me with her, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Well, no, and no, literally no judgment. She has shape shifted you and bent you into,
Mhm.
an unrecognizable form of yourself, which I think that is the definition of manipulation.
Yeah, that you start doing things that you would never do. It
Yeah.
was that bounded choice situation of where it's
Yeah.
really no choice at all. But she did, even though we had sessions, they were in her home,
Yeah.
and she let me know I didn't have to pay for those.
Oh, how convenient.
You know, you know.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, can we talk about the mask slipping moments? Because this is for anyone who has experienced narcissistic abuse, for anyone who has dealt with a sociopath, you get this. So let's talk about it because, again, she has built this facade. She has built, first, she kind of cracked your foundation that was already, wiggly to begin with because you were going there to seek help. Then she, built this whole trajectory of a facade. And now tell me about how the mask slips.
Well, she was able to be emotionally regulated during her sessions and when I'd see her socially. But just like with anyone where you're 24/7 with a person, I started to see some very dysregulated emotions where she would blow up. She
Mm,
would be, um, well, almost like the tables reversed, of where she started saying how lucky she was to have me, and that she couldn't believe that I would, you know, want to spend time with her. And so instead of it being me admiring her,
mhm,
and then, mainly it was where she started, the love bombing got less and less.
mhm.
It's like a breadcrumb
Yes.
of
I,
where she'd give
yeah.
me a little bit of attention and
Mhm.
a little bit of accolades, or I see you, I hear you. And the rest of it was like, I need you to pick up my laundry and cook the dinner and take the dogs to the vet. And I need
Mhm.
all of that done by the time I get home.
Yep. And that's where it starts to get so confusing. You're like, wait, our relationship was this. It was this, grand gesture. It was these big things. And then all of a sudden they start pulling them slowly away. And we all think, I just have to get back there. We'll get back there. We're off day, whatever. And then, like, when it's like a slow boil
Yeah.
until you realize, oh, they're slowly stripping away everything that was keeping me there. And then did you ever then we get to the point of confusion. And did you ever confront her on some of these things? And how did that go?
I wasn't strong enough yet at that point,
Yeah.
and still in that fawning stage of being, it felt too risky. But the times that I did come to her and say something, um, oh, I know what it was. She found out that my family had some investments. She
Mm.
goes, I would like to meet your family because,
Oh.
and I think that alone was a scare thing for me to go, oh no, you're never
Right.
going to meet my family. And I showed her that my displeasure of her saying that. And she totally blew up in a restaurant screaming and got up and left me. We were actually out of town. So I was stranded at the restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
And that was a catalyst enough to open my eyes, at least for that moment in time, of
Mhm.
thinking, okay, now that wasn't me, that was her.
Yes.
And so those kind of things started happening more and more frequently.
Mm.
And then there was the thing of when she did feel me start to pull away, she said, you know, Linda, you are a lesbian, which I have never been, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I just haven't.
Yeah,
And
sure.
she wanted to turn my attraction of her into the fact that I was a lesbian now forevermore. And just kind of telling me that
Right?
that's what I
Ah,
was. And so
ugh.
that was another point of resistance for me because I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's true or not. So she
Mhm.
started pushing me in maybe some core issues of myself that really helped me start to wake up a little bit.
Absolutely. One quick question about the confrontation. When she would blow up at you like that, I'm so glad that you were able to be like, okay, that was her. That was not me. But did it make you afraid to confront her further because you didn't want to encounter those big blow ups?
Yeah, because I mean, to me, it seemed kind of violent. And in my
Mm-hmm.
upbringing, I'm very sensitive. I have PTSD about people
Mm-hmm.
that speak loudly and slam their fists and maybe try to slap people, that kind of thing. And
Yes.
yes, I was afraid. So what I knew then from that point forward is that I was going to gain some strength uh, with her not knowing about it. And I was going to
Wow.
gain enough strength to where one day I was able to escape.
Were you able to confide in anyone at that point, your husband or friends, or to say, like, I need to escape?
No, no,
Mm,
this was all internal within me, but I will
wow.
say that my former husband and
Mhm.
all the information he provided me really did help.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad he was able to do that. Which ironically, didn't you say he was narcissistic as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a good point, is that his motivation to get me back was not ideal, but nevertheless, the end product was he helped me get away from her, only to come back to him.
Mhm.
And
For his pride.
yeah, it was his pride of like thinking that I might be attracted to someone else other than him.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my
And so
goodness.
yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about that moment where you're like, I need to start strengthening myself. Thank God for those moments. What did you do?
Well, I remember being in her home and she came home one night after work. And in my book, A Fire is Coming, I set the scene of where I hear her, coming in her garage door. And she always wore these high heeled shoes and she has a terracotta floor. And so it was like this clump, 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 clump.
Mhm.
And by that time, I probably was not the best at hiding that I had the my flame for her had diminished.
Mhm.
And so she was kind of asking me some pointed questions once she finally came into the room where I was. And um, she wasn't liking my reception of her being home. And so she threw me against a wall
Oh my gosh.
and was trying to manipulate, having sex with me.
Yeah.
And something broke within me. At
Mhm.
least for that night, it broke within me. And I knew in that split second that I was going to, when she went to work the next day, I was going to pack up all my stuff and I was going to escape her home.
Yeah.
I almost didn't make it because she almost came home at the time where I was leaving.
Oh my God.
It's quite thrilling in the book, the way I wrote it, because
Oh, I must read it. Can you give us a little bit of clues though? So you were like, all my alarm bells are going off. I'm packing up my stuff. I'm sneaking out. Where were you going to go?
I knew I had to return to my former husband.
So just next door, so she could find you.
Okay, well, by that time, my former husband had moved to another house, but close by,
Okay.
and I did not move with him.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to go back to him because I realized that was not ideal either, but I just didn't know what else to do. In
Sure.
that moment, I thought it's the best next right step I can take. And then I can deal with that when I get there.
Yeah.
And so I stayed awake all night that night, just thinking of how I'm going to do it
Yeah.
and strategizing and trying not to allow her to know that my whole body was screaming, I'm going to get away from you.
Yeah. Right. And
Yeah.
clearly she's incredibly perceptive. So it's like playing possum.
Yeah. And I probably wasn't the best at hiding it from her.
Yeah. I
So
don't
the
blame you.
next morning, when she left, she gave me a laundry list of things to do that day.
Mm.
And by the time I'm not even going to work anymore,
Mm.
you know, I never got fired, but just couldn't believe that my whole life was just taken away from me.
Yeah.
And so the minute she leaves, I set into motion my whole plan of packing up everything. And you remember I told you that she called to check on me all the time. So
Ah,
her phone, her trying to call me was constant. And I didn't answer for the first couple of times. Actually, I did finally answer, and she could hear it in my voice. She's like, something's happening. And
mm.
I said, I've got to get to work. I'm going to get fired. So I hung up. And the next minute, she's calling back saying, I know something's going on, and I'm coming home right
Oh
now.
God. Oh my gosh.
But the thing is, I didn't get that message that she left for about 30 minutes or so because I was still moving.
Sure.
And then when I listened to it, I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And I ran to her picture window because you could see the street, and if a car is coming up it's a big long hill,
Sure.
and I spotted her car,
Oh my God.
and she's coming, and I don't have everything done yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like falling down the stairs trying to get my last minute stuff to throw it in my car. I'm pulling out of the driveway as she's coming up the street, and it just missed her by that much.
Did she ever see your car leave?
I believe so. Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Okay. So your heart must have been going bajillion miles a minute.
it was.
Oh God, that's absolutely terrifying. And were there things that you just had to leave behind?
No, I think I was able to get everything, but I was not real smart because I had left something in the dryer, and that's what I had taken the time to go back and get.
Yeah.
When I should have just said, that is not important. The
Right.
important thing is to get away.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, you're not in like the full like rational state of mind at this point.
No,
Okay. So you peel out. Had you given your husband a heads up that you were coming, or did you just show up?
I just showed up.
And how did that go?
Well, he was also at work it was in the middle of the day.
Mhm.
And I think I probably called him to let him know.
Yeah.
And so, we talked when I got home, and I knew I was in a real it wasn't a happy day.
Right.
I was
Right.
almost in a worse state after I left her.
Sure.
Because my whole life had just collapsed.
Yeah.
It was a slow, slow, slow rebuilding. And in fact, and as a lot of people will probably be able to relate to this, by the next morning, I was missing her already.
Mm,
And it
it is
wasn't
like
that
a
I was
drug.
missing her. I understand this now. It was that I was missing the whole thing that caused within me how I let her seep into me.
Okay. Tell us more about that.
I didn't know the difference at that point. I really thought it was her that I needed. It was a
Yeah.
drug and I
Mm-hmm.
needed a fix.
Yeah.
But the best thing I did was go ahead and listen to an attorney and to my former husband that there were others that she had done this to, and she was a repeat offender of exploiting her clients.
My
And
goodness.
that if I'm strong enough and healthy enough emotionally, I needed to turn her in and report her to the board of ethics.
Absolutely. Do you know, was her previous partner a client before?
She was.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So
Yes,
you were just the next sitting duck.
I was.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God. Oh,
And
that's
there
so
were others too that when I did eventually get to the civil trial, this other person couldn't testify because she was so emotionally handicapped in an institution that
oh,
she could not. And I was resilient and had tenacity, but there are others that she broke in half that I don't know that they ever did find any kind of healing.
in peace. I
And
mean, I think a lot of women say this, and I say this with a very strong caveat that physical abuse and domestic violence is horrific, horrific. It sends chills down my spine. There are so many people who have suffered emotional abuse that I've spoken to that have said, I wish he just would have hit me because then someone could see it, or someone would believe me. I could tell my story easily. I could have gotten out. Like, the emotional abuse is the hardest part, but like the fact that one of her victims was so emotionally abused that she was institutionalized
Mhm.
just goes to show how fragile and malleable we are on the inside. It isn't just the bruises, the physical bruises. And again, not to underplay how just, I mean, again, it gives me full body chills to think about domestic violence. But emotional abuse is such a real thing, and it is so detrimental to our health and the longevity of our life and the quality of our life that it just breaks my heart. Thank God you are as resilient as you are. But to think about that person who truly can't even function
Yeah,
because of the slow chipping away and the breaking down of her spirit.
exactly. And
Mhm.
I was also going to say that I'm with a support group of survivors of therapy harm, and
Interesting. Yes.
uh, not everyone was sexually violated like I was,
Yeah.
but it does not make their trauma any less than mine.
Yes.
And they have, it's still unethical and gross negligence to do anything other than what they pledged an oath to do
Yes.
no harm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. It is such a position of power, if it is chosen to be dealt with that way. And that's exactly what she did. She just turned it into an absolute power play. Okay. So you went as far to take her to civil court. Did she lose her license?
Well, I was advised to go through the boards first because she
Okay.
was a psychologist and a social worker.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
had to petition both of those.
Yeah.
And I had to do that before the civil trial
Okay.
because I guess it needed to be done. And all of those things take a lot of time,
Oh my
as
God. And money.
people know.
Hmm.
And it also, re traumatizes the person over and over.
Yeah.
But end result is that she was put on probation for psychology, and she had to be monitored with her sessions for a certain period of time to be reinstated.
Wow.
I don't think that she ever tried to get it reinstated because now, presently, she's operating under her social worker certification. And I don't know that they ever, put any kind of probation on her at all.
Ugh.
But she is still in practice to this day for the tune of $450 a session.
Oh my God.
She's that good.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
Oh, that breaks my, I really wish that all of her license has been stripped. To think her in a social working setting where she's connecting with families and yielding her power, and that's scary. But I'm so grateful that you know, at least put the motion in place where she could no longer practice psychology or psychiatry. That's absolutely wild. Joy Creative Shop is one of my very favorite female-founded businesses. Steph, the founder, is not only a dear friend of mine, but a woman I truly admire as a female business owner. We even had her on the podcast. Go back and listen to our episode, Making Space for Every Woman's Success, if you haven't yet. At Joy Creative Shop, you'll find paper products we all love, personalized notepads, cards, list organizers, and the cutest wrapping accessories that make any gift extra special. Whether you're looking for thoughtful teacher holiday gifts, a housewarming present, or just a little something to keep yourself organized, Joy Creative Shop has you covered. And because you're part of the Write Your Own Story community, you'll get 10% off your order with the code Betsy10. Head to joycreativeshop.com and add a little joy to your everyday. Okay, so you are in your former husband's home, and you know, you're kind of like, as you said, that first conversation with him, you're the most undone, and like you're at your lowest point, of course, rightfully so.
Yeah.
How, and I know you obviously had tapped into your resilience already. You had packed your bags and got out by, you know, the hair of your chin. And then how did you find resilience, and what did those steps forward look like? What does healing look like? How, you know, because I think one of the hardest parts of narcissistic and emotional abuse is you lose the ability to trust yourself. Did you find that to be true for you?
Oh, so true. And the reason I got away is that it was on pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
But that goes
Yes,
away.
it
You know,
does.
you can't live in a state of fight or flight. And
Yeah.
so that's when the next morning I was already, I had suicidal ideation, and I was already missing her, thinking I'm not going to be able to go on, because I was that convinced that I needed her, just like a drug, to survive.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
I know, and when I think back at that, I feel really sorry for my 32-year-old self.
Yeah.
But I think, well, the making the decision to go to the boards, that was empowering.
Yeah.
Then it was, I'm going to enroll myself in a master's program of psychology. So I learned language, and I learned that I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And I had a sense of, you know, belonging, and started to regain my autonomy. Everything, the ball started slowly rolling forward.
Mm-hmm.
And my former husband and I did eventually get pregnant, and we have two beautiful children.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And by the time, I mean, it took so long to get to the civil trial that when I was on the stand for the test of my testimony, I had just found out I was pregnant with my second child that morning,
Oh my God.
which was totally empowering, right? I was
Yeah.
thinking that was my secret, and I have this baby inside me that I'm going to nurture. And so it seemed to give me strength I had to see her again. She was in the courtroom, and
Oh,
she was whispering to her attorney of, ask her if she's a lesbian. I'm like,
like, well, I'm pregnant with a man's baby.
yeah,
So,
but she was going to try anything to undo me.
yep. Right. She knew all the levers to pull, clearly, or at least to attempt to. Okay. So I love that this is such a message that applies to so many things. But when you are feeling helpless and hopeless, it is a matter of just finding I love what you said about the next right thing. What is the next right decision? And I love that you were basing your decisions based on what gave you some form of empowerment and made you feel just a little bit more in control of your life. And I think that's the ticket. You know, there's so much in life we can't control, but there are so many things that we can do to empower ourselves that make us feel more embodied and make us feel more in charge of the situation. I think that's incredible. So you got your psychology degree. Was that a huge source of healing for you? Was to go through that and to understand your experiences and how they played out?
Yeah, and what was really great is that I was finding my voice. And in my classes, I would speak to the exploitation because I knew that this was the crowd that needed to hear it real
Yeah.
time, real experience of what happens to a client when you violate the therapeutic, what is, you've taken an oath to uphold. And so I was asked to speak at a couple of things that was, really set the ball in motion of being able to help others. And if I could help anyone, just one person, know that this can happen, and it didn't happen, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
So that was really empowering. And then having my kids, I believe it was empowering, but it was also a little bit of a distraction.
Yeah.
Because I poured all of my energies into my two children that I adored.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Mhm.
think also having the courage and the safe space to speak about it amongst your classmates, like hopefully, like when we were able to say our things out loud, shame no longer has the hold on us that it did. And we can't help but feel shameful when we make these decisions, no matter how coerced we were,
Yeah.
or anyone was for that matter. But shame is a real part of it, right?
Well, and that's the way a coercive person will control you, is
Mm,
they know they can control you through shame.
mhm. Yes. And that is like, I think shame is the one that has the strongest chokehold. It keeps people silent. It keeps people stuck. And I'm so glad, literally just even writing the words, but saying the words out loud and seeing how they're received in a different environment with compassion and understanding just completely flips the script, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
That's
Because
incredible.
while you are living it, you start to normalize certain things. Like, oh, okay, I guess this is okay.
Yeah.
She was telling me it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but when you say it out loud to a completely different group, they're like, what the hell? What?
You see the look on people's faces and you're like, oh, yeah, that was bad, wasn't it?
So you get a different perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So you then, with your psychology degree, has it been for your healing? Do you apply that? Um, I know you've written books. Tell me, like, how have you continued your empowerment journey with all that you've learned?
Well, I'll backtrack just a bit and say
Yeah, sure.
I did not get my master's because I didn't ever fulfill the hours that you needed to be a certified therapist. I
Mhm.
finished all the academic work, which
Yeah,
was enormous for me.
totally.
Yeah. And I have never, thought to go on and actually be a therapist.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
think that is a great message for women listening too, to be like, you don't have to, like, just because you said you're going to do something, you can get so far and be like, I'm fulfilled and this is no longer the path that I want to go down. I think women sometimes get so stuck. We're like, no, I said I was going to do it, so I have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was able to use it for myself and for raising my children. And
Mm,
ultimately, it's what helped me understand that I needed to divorce my former husband
mm,
and saw glaring things that I could not ignore because I've seen them before. All the patterns were there,
yeah.
and was able to finally separate from him,
Yeah.
only to be indoctrinated by an unhealthy relationship with alcohol.
Oh man, it's so hard, right? These patterns.
I know. And
Yeah.
it convinced me it was my best friend. And, when um, your body is physically addicted, you're
Mm,
thinking, I have to have that substance to survive.
hmm.
So once I finally got to that precipice of this has got to end,
Yeah.
and was able to get sober and
Yeah.
started going to the 12-step programs.
Yeah.
And what really helped me was the ACOA 12-step program, which is adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families.
Ah, I didn't know about that.
It's huge because they have a 14-item laundry list, is what they call it, of
Yeah.
did this happen in your childhood home? This one, this one, this one. I was like going, yep, yep, yep.
Mhm.
And so once I started learning about emotional regulation or codependency, all of the stuff. And I started realizing and stepping back of everything that has ruled my life without me really knowing it. So I started to make my unconscious conscious. And through that, I was able to deconstruct what I thought I knew about myself, about my adoption, about my parents, about life, about God, everything.
Yeah.
And so it was a really huge transformation of leaving the old behind, the old story, the old narrative, and saying, what do I want my new story to be? Which is why your title drew me in.
Oh my God. I love that so much.
Me too.
Oh.
And that's what my third book is all about, is how I've gotten 1, 2, and 3 books have gotten me to this point of how to go forward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. I'm very much in the like, what is the forward chapter phase of my life as well. I sat for a while in adrenaline, and then I sat in everything is happening to me. And then I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I need things to happen for me. And so write your own story. You know, we all get to write the rules of our life. Does the old story ever try and creep back into you?
Oh, all the time.
All the time,
I
right?
have to rededicate to it every day and say,
And
this
can you
is
tell me more about that? Yeah.
My mindset is like, if it doesn't fit through my lens of being loving, what's my motivation? And is it healthy? If it doesn't meet that criteria, even though sometimes it's awkward and I don't want to do it, but I'm like, okay, I have declared that that's what I'm dedicated to, and I know it works. I've seen it work, and my momentum is going. So I'm able to, even if I get off track for a certain amount of time, so much shorter time to get back where I want to be.
So when you were feeling yourself get off track, because I like, just to be totally vulnerable, I'm in one of those seasons where like, you know, it's like cold and flu season at home, and work has like quadrupled, and that's my own doing. It's my own company, but like I'm getting certifications and layering all that. And I don't, you ever have those seasons where you're like, I'm really having a hard time feeling like I'm getting a solid win. Even though I know there are solid wins all around me, but it's my old story creeping back into my head. Like, this is overwhelming. You can't handle this. Like, when I know none of that is true. What are your go-to practices that bring you back to this new mentality that really is the true you?
Okay. Well, I would say, with all the research I've done, that I recognize when I'm so much in that old story, I'm blind, deaf, and dumb.
Yes. Blind, deaf, and dumb is exactly how you feel.
And no one, even though they're saying, hey, over here, this is the right path. I'm like, nope, don't want to hear
it. Can't see it. Yeah.
And I've learned that the sooner you catch it, the better, because it doesn't have the hold or getting entrenched in the full solid story. If you catch yourself before you have those thoughts, that's better.
Yeah.
But I've also learned through IFS, internal family systems, how important it is to go back and talk to those younger parts of yourself that are trying to be seen and heard. And you need to offer them comfort and repair, because they're going to get louder and louder until you sit with them and listen to them lovingly and say, you are released from that obligation that was never yours in the first place.
Yes.
And I'm my adult core self now. I'm going to handle it, but I want you to be right here with me.
Yeah.
And we're going to work this out together.
Oh my God. That makes me like emotional to think about those versions of all of us, and to be like, I've got you. You're not that anymore. Yeah.
And
it's like release and comfort in my body just to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it's not that, well, I say, and so does IFS, all my parts are welcome, but not maladaptive behaviors. Thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors, you don't have to welcome those. But you can welcome your parts that protected you, and you help them choose a different role now of what would you rather be doing. And then those thoughts and behaviors, they fade away and get less and less as you get more practiced in, no, this is the way I want to show up now.
Yeah. That's incredible. So the scared child version or the angry teenage version or the abused, emotionally abused version, the protector parts can come back. And so that could drive your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
So they're not.
But you choose to see them as just protector parts and tell them to choose a different path, a more loving and compassionate path. Is that right?
Well, and yeah, and you help show them, and actually you model it,
Mm-hmm.
and you ask them to stay with you alongside you, but that was never their obligation or responsibility to do.
Yeah.
And you assure them that you have new data because you're an adult.
Yeah.
So they are frozen in time. They think that trauma is still going on. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why they need to be heard and comforted to say that was really rough. Those were rough times. But
Yeah.
hey, guess what? They're not going on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to start releasing, like, whew, they must be so exhausted.
Yes. Right. Oh my gosh. That's so freeing and beautiful. And like anything, it's a practice, right? Like we have to practice over and over. We build the skills, we build the muscles, we build the resilience. Um, and even like I always say, I'm born pretty sunny side up. I'm a pretty optimistic person, a pretty happy person. I know a lot of people aren't that way, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have very sad, hard days. But like I still, even though I'm born sunny side up, I've learned as an adult that I still have to cultivate happiness. Happiness doesn't just happen, even when you're born when you wake up sunny side up. You have to find it and choose it throughout the day.
Yeah.
I was joking with one of my best friends the other day. She was going through something that was just no fun. And we were saying something, I don't know how we got on the topic of sunflowers, but basically sunflowers were like the gratitude moments, and that trauma is trauma, right? And we were like, why is trauma so easy to see and hear and notice, but the sunflowers you really got to look for? And so like we've spent the past couple of days, like she sent me a picture of a rainbow, and like I sent her a picture of like a warm cup of coffee, and we're like, sunflowers. But I've found that is like, news to me, that like gratitude isn't just like a practice to make you feel better. It is a muscle you're building to help support that like loving, healthy life that you want to live.
Oh, I so agree.
Mm.
Gratitude is so important. And if we don't have that, then our stinking thinking is liable to return.
I love that. It's almost like the data that you were talking about. This is the evidence that your new life is happening, and it's good, and it's good all around, and that
That's
you're
your
okay.
fuel. That's your fuel that keeps you
Yeah.
on track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
love
gives
that.
you joy, right? Because if you don't have
Truly.
gratitude, you really can't get up close and personal with joy.
I love that. You're absolutely right. No. And like what a sad, it makes me sad to think that joy is so oh, what word am I trying to say?
Elusive.
Yes. But it's like it's in our grasp. It's like it's within our reach, but we don't reach for it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the
You have
rest
to
feels so
be
heavy.
intentional about it and use tools and methods that foster
Mm-hmm.
the environment of you getting close to that, like being
Yeah.
out in nature, or
Mm-hmm.
like you said, looking at sunflowers, um,
Yeah.
all of that somatic experiencing that does help us kind of get in the mood.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Absolutely.
yeah, that is beautiful.
That is beautiful. Can we just quickly summarize before and then I want to talk about the specifics of your book, and because we're getting close to the top of the hour and I want to make sure I'm mindful of your time. Can we summarize sort of like what the cycle of abuse is so that when people can look at it from the outside in?
I'm wanting clarification. Do you mean about things to watch out for, or?
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned that there's sort of a pattern that narcissists tend to follow, and that it can repeat in the therapeutic setting, it can repeat in the partnership setting. Like what are those key milestones or benchmarks or behaviors that people can start looking at to be like, oh God, I think I'm
Yeah.
in
I
that
I
scenario?
think, and I know that we all want to hear those words of affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
but if it becomes where they're just telling you how special you are, and they wouldn't do this for anyone else, and that they are the only ones that can help you, um, and then it kind of moves into, I mean, that's the grooming process, right? Of where you just can do no wrong. It's intoxication. And then it moves into maybe more the limitations of their expectations of you, but yet still fueled by a lot of adoration and giving you your heart's desire on a silver platter, whatever that might be. They will zone in on what that is and know how to get at it. And then that starts to become the breadcrumbing, right, of they start to, nitpick and tell you things that are wrong with you and things that they expect you to do. And then you're really compromising your principles and who you are as a person. And by that time, you've kind of lost sight of who you are.
Yeah.
And what the whole objective of therapy was.
Right.
Who are we helping here?
Right? That's the most heartbreaking part, is that you went for specific help and instead you got put on an absolute roller coaster.
And it starts to be all about them, and they're getting their own needs met. And it's really all about their agenda.
Mm-hmm. And then you get into this kind of codependent space where you do anything you can to appease them, because they don't allow you to be happy unless they are happy.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So their well-being is more important to you than your own well-being.
Oh, so well said. So well said. And not only is it because you're a compassionate and empathetic person, but it is the only way that you feel safe at this point. Is if their well-being is in order, if their world is in order, then they're not going to come after you. Mm-hmm. So I think,
and regardless of how many red flags, that's how, when you hear people say, oh, I'd never get into a situation like that, that would have been a glaring red flag. Mm-hmm. And probably for most people looking from the outside in, yes. Mm-hmm. But when you've been indoctrinated, things get fuzzy and confusing, and your thinking is not your own anymore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that is another huge red flag for people, is if you start feeling confused. If you're confused for a reason. If you can find the space and time to sit with yourself and sit with your confusion, not for the sake of talking yourself out of the confusion, but for sitting with the confusion and recognizing it for what it is. Why are you confused? But I think that is a huge one, where actions aren't matching words or whatever it may be. There are plenty of sources of confusion. But if you are, or like, if admiration comes and goes, I mean, don't get me wrong, people have on days and off days, but if it's like wildly inconsistent or only attached to certain things, like, you'll be able to trust your gut to be like, why am I confused?
I so agree.
Okay. Let's talk about your books.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah. Give us the whole, tell that. Definitely. So was writing a big part of your healing?
Definitely. My healing, it's not linear, as we all know.
Sure.
And it was happening at a slow pace. After I left the therapist and got into psychology, learning about the terminology of personality disorders, that was also helpful. But only to get into another, pretty challenging part of my life. And my really big healing didn't start happening until after I got sober.
Yeah.
And I started being dedicated to what they call emotional sobriety.
Ooh, I love that.
Emotional intelligence, emotional maturity. And that would just be being reflective of who you are, establishing a relationship with yourself. And if you're not a cheerleader for yourself, then who is going to be?
Yeah.
You're with yourself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, I've always kind of been a writer. I have a journalism degree, undergrad, and I was writing as a child that helped me when I was in difficult situations with my parents. Mm-hmm. So I'd already kind of started cultivating, putting emotions into words. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward to writing the first book, The Gathering Place, an adoptee's story. And I've also been told by others that are not adoptees that they were able to see their own story through mine. So it doesn't have to just be, you don't have to be an adoptee to get what The Gathering Place is all about.
Yeah.
And I take my real life experiences with weaving it through where I meet my younger parts at a grassy hill with a oak tree and a swing attached.
It's
And so I
beautiful.
have conversations with my younger parts and asking them what they need, and
Mm.
befriending them. And um, that was kind of the start of the whole thing. Then it moves on to, I thought, after I wrote that first book, I'm done. I've said it all. And I thought, wait a minute. I need to do a cautionary tale
Mhm.
of how people need to be aware of what to watch out for of unethical therapy.
Yes.
And that's where Fires came from. And it's
Mhm.
really the true life story, and it reads like a psychological thriller of how
Yes.
that all happened from start to finish.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I can imagine that is reads just like a psychological thriller.
That one was difficult and challenging because
Mm.
I had to get back in the headspace of where I was. I had to listen to music that I listened to at that time because it helped me remember. I had to
Ooh.
look at photographs of that time, and it helped me write and put into words my emotions. And I was able to hold my trauma out in front of me instead of allowing it to re-traumatize me. That was my fuel of just to get a different perspective of it, to write about it.
That's incredible. That has to be feel like the biggest, hugest, most monumental growth.
It was very helpful.
Yeah.
And, that happened 30 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
And I'll be unraveling that whole thing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But I have made great progress on it through just being dedicated, as not about perfection, but about becoming more human
Hmm.
and allowing myself to look through that lens that I told you about, which
Yeah.
brought me to my third book.
Yeah. This is
Because
incredible.
I realized again I wasn't finished. And I see that all three now as a series because they all play on each other.
Yeah.
And the therapist situation is in all three books, but it was primarily in the second book. But
Yeah.
in the third book, I just talk a lot about how I do life now
Hmm.
and how I was able to ask myself, the things I've been living, are those even true? The thoughts and beliefs I've always had. And I was able to throw away the things that didn't serve me anymore and keep the valuable things that did serve and were healthy. And I come to my conclusions about my adoption, about the universe, about the divine, all of it in choosing to breathe.
Choosing to breathe. What an incredible title. Oh,
You
wow.
have a choice
It is.
to fully breathe, not to
Mm.
breathe enough to get by,
Hmm.
right? To do away with the hypervigilance that kept me being a chest breather. And now, when I give myself permission to fully breathe, I'm able to experience joy, and my fear and anxiety goes away. And now I have my creativity and curiosity back.
God, I feel like I'm just going to replay that sentence, those two sentences on repeat all day in my head about putting down, like, if you can truly shed hypervigilance, because for anyone who has been emotionally abused, you can't help but just look in every corner, nook and cranny for what, and it's coming. Like my shoulders even go up talking about it. I'm like, oh, is it coming again? I really don't want to have to go through this again, kind of thing. Like maybe if I just see it coming this time, I've studied it, I've done the work, I'm sure I'll see it coming this time, but it's exhausting and it's all consuming. So to put it down and to truly breathe, I mean, that's incredible. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
very motivating. Well, I mean, what an impressive body of work. Where can we find all of these great stories?
They're all three on Amazon. And
Wonderful.
I also wanted to do Audible because I feel like it's the next level of healing when you speak your own story. So I
Ooh,
am the narrator of all three books on Audible.
very impressive.
It,
Oh,
it was,
very
I really
okay.
enjoyed that project.
And excellent. We will make sure to link all three books in the show notes of the show. My very last question for you. If you had, it doesn't have to be 60 seconds, but if you had to give a short soundbite of advice for any woman listening, what would it be?
I would say Don't give blind trust to people before they've earned your trust. And then I guess for the overall sense of well-being, I would say challenge your thoughts, because just because you have a thought or belief, that does not make them true. Society conditions us, our childhood home conditions us, and you have choice to believe what you believe and to get out of a cycle of self-sabotage, because that false narrative will lead you down a false road. And
Yes.
so I would just say, please challenge your thoughts, be reflective, and
I
stay
love
aware. Yeah.
God, that's so good. I had read somewhere one of the whole notion of challenging your thoughts, and they don't, just because you have them doesn't mean it's true. That was breaking news to me. I was like, why would my brain lie to myself? I thought it was my intuition, but boy, are they two separate things. Someone had said, ask yourself, is it true? Is it 100% true? How would you feel? How does it make you feel? If the opposite were true, how would that make you feel? And it just kind of like, we have to find the evidence to support it. Like, is it true? Is it actually true? Or are you just worried about it? And just that enough. And we're like, well, we have no evidence. So what would the opposite make you feel? I thought that was a pretty good one.
And you have to stay open and willing to ask yourself those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be willing to unravel, because if one thing turns out to not be true, oh no, what else is not true?
So true.
But even though it's uncomfortable in the beginning, I guarantee you, if you stick with it, you'll start to gain that momentum, and it'll be worth that, getting on that path.
Yeah. Look at you. You are, you've done such incredible healing work. You have, gone from someone who could barely make it to work to writing 3 incredible books. You seem so peaceful and centered. And I'm sure that, isn't all day, every day, but you know how to return to it. You've certainly turned all the ship around. Like, it's just an incredible story. So thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you for having me on. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely. Likewise. You guys, this type of, therapeutic specific. I think there's so much in here that is so shareable to the people that you love in your life. People who are in therapy relationships, people who are in partnerships that make you, that have maybe shared some type of emotional abuse. Really just like learning how to trust your intuition and how to find your peace and your true self again. And I love also the healing of our past versions of ourselves and holding space and comfort and compassion for those. There have been so many great moments. So Linda, thank you again so much. And thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Well, that's the end of this episode, but promise me, you won't stop here with whatever it is you're feeling or dreaming about. I hope you leave today feeling empowered to live life just as you see fit. If this podcast was helpful to you, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. I genuinely just want to help women live the life they dream about. So if this type of content tracks with you, subscribe to this podcast or visit our website, writeyourownstory.co, to download digital courses or to grab a journal and a mug to just dream in and dream with. It's your life, lady. Do you. And just remember, I'm rooting for you, and you've totally got this.